Time rules our lives, but what actually is time? Most people treat time like a conveyor belt of hours just slipping by. But the reality is that different eras and different cultures treat time differently. So today we'll explore the concept of how time has changed and actually why we feel like we're always wasting time and what we can do about it. So what is time really? Atomic clocks define 1 second as the vibration of a cesium atom. So in physics, time is just a way of counting change, counting those vibrations. Philosophically, Augustine said, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it, I do not know." So is time a real entity, or is it just a concept that humans have used to measure experience? Maybe time really isn't just a thing. Maybe it's more of a lens that we look at everything. And Einstein showed that time is not absolute. Your time and my time are not identical. Physics accepts that time can be flexible. It tells us that time isn't universal. It bends, it stretches. The universe does not treat time as rigid. Our current understanding of time and the current feeling of time is led very much by a number of different things. Firstly, we have this conception that time in the form of days and minutes and hours is passing by, literally passing by, and we must use that time, otherwise it goes to waste. So we have to maximize. You can imagine it like a conveyor belt with a box on it, and each of the boxes we have to put as much items in the box as possible. That's maximizing our time. And this is a relatively recent idea. And there's a number of reasons why we have this really quite odd idea about time. Firstly, it's the hustle culture. You always have to be doing something. What's your side hustle? What is the thing that you're doing in your free time? When you've got to keep doing things, you're encouraged always to be doing multiple things at the same time. You're encouraged to always be making the most of your time. Have you made the most of your time? Are you making the most of your life? Are you doing the most you can in a day? The idea that you have a short amount of time and you have to cram everything possible into that amount of time to be satisfied is a relatively recent idea. So that's one. The other thing is that a lot of people these days are very much addicted to their mobile phones, and they're very much complaining about time being wasted away on their phones. And I've suffered from that addiction myself. And there's a number of things that I've done to reduce that addiction. Have a look at the rest of my channel. There's some videos on how to reduce your phone addiction. One of the things that is interesting is I grew up, for example, without a mobile phone, and a lot of you listeners will have done that as well. When we talk about reducing our mobile phone usage, we often say that, oh, I wonder how people lived without mobile phones, because mobile phones are so integral to every part of our lives. And people are constantly pulling out their phone to fill in the board gaps and think, oh, if I put my phone away, then what am I going to do in those gaps? Oh, I wonder, how did people live without phones? And as a person who did live without a phone, I also find myself thinking, how did I get on without a mobile phone? Well, here's the thing. The concept of time has changed since that era. Like I said, partly driven by the side hustle, partly driven by the fact that we feel like we need to be being as productive as possible. There's lots of self-help books. There's lots of things about being as productive as you can be, and that means cramming in as much time as possible. So the idea of time has changed. So when we say, how do we live without a mobile phone? That's a question which is out of time, because at the moment, with the emphasis on doing as much as possible as we can, we're on our phones, we're scrolling stuff, we're doing stuff all the time. Oh, if I put my phone away, won't I get bored? Won't I be less productive? Again, that's a consequence of our understanding of time. When you didn't have a mobile phone, it wasn't just that you didn't have a mobile phone, but it was the era was different. The mentality around time was different. And this is a very subtle but very distinct issue. And once you understand that, you'll understand why, even if you didn't have a phone when you were younger, you now have a phone and now you're addicted to your phone. The reason why is because the concept of time has changed. The concept of time wasting away has changed. The concept of having to put as many things as possible into that conveyor belt of hours and minutes, as many things as possible, that's a new concept, and that wasn't there before. So the impetus to be maximally productive for no particular reason necessarily, isn't there. And that is the drive that's being fulfilled when you're picking up your phone and you're always trying to be doing something, okay? Because you don't want to sit there bored. Yeah, it's a negative thing to be bored, right? It's not. You can have a look at my channel for other videos on why you should be bored. So let's say you stand there 25 years ago, you're in the supermarket, you're waiting for your turn at the supermarket. Now, 9 times out of 10, every person in that queue will have their phone out and will be looking at their phone. Why? Because they're wasting time just standing there doing nothing. They may as well look at their phone and do something. 25 years ago, this wouldn't be the case. You wouldn't have people waiting. They'd be standing there, literally just standing there, right? Someone might have a newspaper maybe, but literally they'd just be standing there waiting. They didn't have the need at that time to fulfill every part of their lives with something. Like I said, that's a recent drive. So the concept of time can change so much in such a short amount of time. Think back to how much it would have changed in earlier times. Let's go back to, say, the medieval times. Now, in the medieval times, there was no wristwatches. There was no way of keeping time apart from the day, as in the sunset and the sunrise. And the days were organized around that time, around the sun times. You work while the sun is out. And not only that, but the days were organized by tasks, not by hours. So, for example, if you were a farmer, like a lot of people would have been at that time, you worked until the job was done, right? If you were collecting the harvest, that would be a task that you get on with. Now, if you collect the harvest in half the time, it wouldn't mean that you could then collect twice as much harvest, right? You have just one harvest to do. So you have task-based, not time-based activities. And this is what happened in those times. It was all about task-based activities. You worked on making your meal, you worked on building a house, you worked on taking the harvest in. It was all based around tasks, and the job was done when the job was done. There was no sort of, we must do it at this time. And it wasn't really until the Industrial Revolution where factory time provided that strict schedule, that productivity that was measured by the hour, and that's where it all began. Time is money. That's where that expression came from, and that's where our emphasis on what we could do in an hour, or what we could get people to do in an hour for us, that's where that came in. Now, related to this is the concept that time seems to go by a lot faster as you're older. And the popular online explanation is this, that as you're older, each year is a smaller amount of the total percentage of time that you've been alive. So when you're 5 years old, for example, each year is 1/5 of your life. When you're 50 years old, then each year is 1/50th of your life. So the portion of time that each year takes up of your life and of your mental capacity, in that case, is less as you get older. And that is a nice, tidy reason. But there's something that I don't like about that reasoning. And I think it's because it's too tidy. On the face of it, it seems logical, but actually, if you zoom into each of those years, it's still the same time period, whether you're 5 or you're 20. The perception of time shouldn't change that much. So I think there's another reason. And I think the reason is that life gets more monotonous as you get older. You get stuck in the same routine. When you're a child, you're learning every day. You're doing new things every day. And just as a matter of being human, you're learning how to walk, how to eat, and how social interactions work, and how relationships work, and how the world works, and politics, and so on. So you're always learning as a child. And you're always going to new places because it's all new to you. Often, as you get older, this routine settles down and you start doing the same thing. Have you ever driven to work and then not realized how you got there because you were on autopilot? That's what I'm talking about. Your routine becomes the same in a large portion of your life. And your brain is very efficient. It's not going to record something which it knows is happening every day. So if you're always driving to work, it's not going to record that into your brain and keep it as a memory. If you know you always eat the same dinner, if you know you always go to the bathroom in the morning and brush your teeth, it's not going to note those experiences. Whereas it might have noted some of those experiences when you were younger, because they're less novel experiences, and the brain decides, what's the point in keeping all these in mind when the same thing happens every day? So I think what happens as you get older is that you're not forming as many memories as you were previously, because you're not having those new experiences. So you're not forming as many memories. So that means your year, when you look back on it, it's shrunk massively. It's become much smaller. And so you think last year went by so quickly. And it did if you remove all the monotonous parts, because you're not doing anything new. So we're going back to mobile phone use and time wastage. You can't exactly blame yourself entirely for that either. Social media companies are an accomplice in this, in trying to get you to spend time on their phone and their item. They've got massive budgets, and the massive budgets are there to figure out how to get you onto their platform and stay on their platform. Do you remember at one point where you scroll down, you have to press the next page number to get to the next page? Now you don't have to do that. It's infinity scroll. You can just keep scrolling until, doom scrolling, and there's no end to it with doom scrolling. Social media needs you to do that. And so social media designs those platforms to draw you in and to trap you within that. So not only has the concept of time changed, and we know that there's a number of reasons for that. And one of the other reasons is social media companies who are actively making you feel like you're wasting time if you're not consuming. Social media has reframed time to be wasted if you're not producing or if you're not consuming. And really, just thinking about doom scrolling, when you're scrolling, you're not in the present. You're split between comparing your past, between planning your future, but you're missing the now. All right, so what are the ways that we can readjust our concept of time and make sure that we're making time work for us in the way we want it and not feel pressurized to use it the way social media might want it, the way other people might want? Number one, try to think like the medieval people. Try to work in terms of tasks. I need to complete this task. Not I've got 1 hour to complete this task, but think about I'm going to finish this project when I finish this project. This might not necessarily work in your workplace, but you can think about that in your projects at home. To break away from the phone, have some phone-free hours. Remove the notifications from your phone and just feel how that time is changing when it's not split up into chunks by pings and notifications. A lot of online productivity experts talk about time blocking and making sure you're doing as many varied activities in those time blocks as possible, fitting as much as you can in a day. What I'd like you to do is start to time block rest, because rest is as important as any of those activities. Again, it's highlighting the importance of rest. And part of the highlighting importance of rest is reframing how you see time. Now, the Greeks saw time as two components. Number one, kairos, which is Greek for quality time, moments of meaning. And number two, chronos, which is the clock time. Now, the ancient Greeks saw both as necessary, chronos to provide the structure, but kairos to give life its richness. Try a bit more kairos. Try to track those moments. Try to write down one thing that mattered. Each evening, write down one thing that mattered during the day. Again, it sort of links to gratitude journaling. And as cliche as it sounds, live in the moment. If you're late for an appointment because you were having a great conversation, enjoy the conversation. That's not wasted time. The fact that you're late is not important. It's about enjoying the time that you have at the moment in the way that you want it, not that you feel pressured to enjoy it. So I hope listening to this as let you understand that time isn't fixed. It's just a story that we tell ourselves, and we are able to change the story and as a result, change the way we live. As a challenge to you, I want you to this week pick one day where you measure everything by tasks and not hours. Notice how different life feels when you step off that conveyor belt. So don't just count the hours that you live, count the moments that you're living. Thanks for listening. Make sure you click subscribe and press like, and make sure that you share this with as many people as you can so we can get this message spread far.